Welcome to Vacuum Wars, and to our review of the Ecovacs Deebot X8 Pro Omni Robot Vacuum, which is the latest and greatest from Ecovacs, one of the top robot vacuum manufacturers. The X8 has all the main features of other flagship robot vacuums, and it's selling at a pretty reasonable price. We bought one for ourselves and have been testing it in various ways over the past few weeks, and in the process, we found that it was a top-tier performer in many categories with only a few downsides. In this video, I'll go over the pros and cons of the X8 Pro Omni in an efficient way and reveal at the end how the X8 is currently ranking on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 Robot Vacuum list. So links in the description, and let's get started. Starting off with the basics, the Ecovacs Deebot X8 Pro is a combo robot vacuum and mop, meaning that it can vacuum hard floors and carpets and mop floors at the same time with its lifting roller mop. It also comes with a fully featured auto empty bin/mop washing station, as well as front-mounted obstacle avoidance sensors. As I said, it's Ecovacs' new flagship, but it's being sold at about 20% less than many of its competitors. I think its closest competitor would be the Roborock Crevo Edge in terms of price and specs, and so I'm going to compare the X8 to the Edge a lot during this review. Starting off with the pros, the X8 has a ton of power. In our suction tests on max power, it was much higher than average. In fact, it had a top 10 score out of over 100 robot vacuums that we've tested in this way. It was a similar story with its airflow on max power, and both of those numbers were significantly higher than the Roborock Crevo Edge. The X8 has a lot of new hardware features that were also a pro. For example, it has a newly designed main brush, which they call Zero Tangle 2.0, which uses comb-like structures in the housing to resist hair tangles, which it does quite well. For example, it got a perfect score on our 7-inch hair tangle test, which is rare. But it's also a well-designed brush in general. In our embedded 2.5 pet hair pickup test, it picked up 97% of the hair, which is another top 10 score and way higher than average and higher than the Roborock Edge. Its carpet deep clean score was above average too. This is where we test how good it is at picking up deeply embedded sand in carpet. Its sweeping ability on hard floors was also good, but its side brush was a little aggressive in my opinion and tended to scatter debris when there was a large amount of debris, and I did knock off some points because of this. But for normal amounts of debris on hard floors, and especially with carpets, it was a great sweeper. Another big pro was its mopping features. The X8 is the first Ecovacs robot with the Osmo roller instead of the more typical spinning mop pads. This roller style has a few advantages over dual spinning pads, such as the ability to pick up wet spills like urine or other wet liquids, because traditional dual spinning mop pads are strictly meant for mopping dry floors. But the X8, with its roller style mop, can process wet liquid with a squeegee and store that liquid in an internal dirty water tank, which is then automatically emptied into the dock's dirty water tank after each run. The roller mop style is also good at reducing streaks because it leaves behind so little water compared to others, and in our tests, it had one of the lowest amounts of water left behind. Its roller also lifts up 10 millimeters automatically when it senses carpets, so that it can vacuum and mop houses with a mixture of hard floors and carpets in the same run, which is a really important feature. Its mop roller also extends automatically when it's doing edge runs for good edge coverage, which is pretty impressive. This feature can be turned on or off in the app. I should also mention here that it has the same auto-extending feature for its side brush up front, this time for better corner coverage. And both of these auto-extending features worked well in our hands-on testing. In the dried-on stain mop test, the X8 was not as impressive as I would have liked. It got a slightly below average score on the two tests that we did, one on its low water setting and one on its high water setting. But as I said earlier, it left behind very little water when doing this, which really helped its overall score, because a mop can do good at the dried-on stain test just by spraying water everywhere, but that would create a mess. So it's really about how good it can do with the least amount of water left behind, and the X8 actually ended up with a higher than average Mop Stain Test score when you combine these two results. Another big pro is its Omni Station. The station has 12 functions, including auto-emptying of the dustbin into a disposable bag, hot water mop pad washing, hot air mop pad drying, internal water tank filling, dirty water tank emptying, optional detergent dispensing, bin self-cleaning, and more. It also has relatively large clean and dirty water tanks and a removable tray. So it has every major bin feature you would want, with the possible exception of a dirty water sensor. Another pro is its navigation, and this is interesting because the X8 Pro has a new embedded LiDAR system, which we're starting to see more of on top-tier robot vacuums. This means that the spinning LiDAR sensor for mapping and navigation is not mounted on the top like most other robot vacuums with LiDAR, but the LiDAR sensor is now embedded lower near the front of the robot. They're starting to do this because it makes robot vacuums slimmer and able to get under more furniture that it might not have otherwise been able to get under. I have up to this point been slightly critical of these embedded LiDAR systems for being just a little less efficient than the top-mounted versions, but in our navigation tests, the X8 did amazing, getting the second highest score I've seen with navigation efficiency. So the X8 was fast, efficient, and good with coverage in general. Its battery life was technically a pro. It had higher than average battery efficiency scores in our tests and a higher than average official battery life number, but those numbers were less than some of its major competitors, like the Roborock Crebo Edge, probably because of the X8's internal LiDAR, which leaves less room for a large battery. The final pro I'll mention is the app. Ecovacs has one of the best apps in the business, in my opinion, and they've added a lot of new features and functionality to the app recently. In addition to a built-in voice assistant, it has all the things: multi-level maps, virtual barriers, advanced scheduling features, pet-related features like video calls, and much more. The app also has good ratings on the app stores. It can't all be good stuff though, so let's move on to the cons. The Ecovacs X8 Omni uses a camera-based front-mounted obstacle avoidance system to recognize and avoid household objects. In our obstacle avoidance test, however, the X8 was slightly below average with obstacle avoidance and even slightly below the Roborock Crebo Edge, which also had a similarly low score. The X8 could sense most of the objects in the test, and it was certainly better than the vast majority of robot vacuums that don't have obstacle avoidance sensors, but it wasn't perfect, especially with smaller objects. Another con I've already mentioned is the aggressive side brush on hard floors, which scatters debris a little bit. Again, not a huge deal for normal amounts of debris, but worth noting. Another thing was that its internal dustbin is very small. This is probably because of the internal LiDAR system, which reduced the real estate available for the dustbin, but at 220 milliliters, it's one of the smallest bins I've seen. You can set the robot to return to empty its bin several times during a run, so it's not that big of a deal, but if you have a lot of big dogs or something, you'll need to do that pretty often with the X8. In my opinion, the story with the X8 is about value. It's got a lot of features and functionality at this price point. In fact, when I added all of these scores together, it is, as of the time of making this video, ranking number 3 overall on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 Robot Vacuum list on our website. So check the links in the description and be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave. Thanks for watching. All of the links in the description are updated regularly to reflect our current favorite vacuums in multiple categories. You'll also find links to the Vacuum Wars website in the description, where we have more detailed lists of our favorite products, like our new Top 20 Robot Vacuums list, which is updated weekly.